Welcome back to NewsNation Tonight. Nancy Pelosi could be in Taiwan right now. Several reports had her visiting there tomorrow, and it's already tomorrow in Taiwan. It's about to be tomorrow out east. Let's not get into what a day is. This is an image of her in Singapore earlier today. Shucks, I just said I wasn't going to do that. She's making at least 4 stops on her Asian tour. Taiwan would make a 5th, but not going is suddenly looking like a sign of weakness. So she sort of has to go. Today, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken put the ball in Pelosi's court.
The Speaker will make her own decisions about whether or not to visit Taiwan. Congress is an independent, co-equal branch of government. The decision is entirely the Speaker's.
Dmitri Alperovitch, founder of the Silverado Policy Accelerator, joining us on NewsNation Tonight to talk about this a little bit. Dmitri, let's start with how Pelosi might get her plane into Taiwan. Last week, the Chinese said they're tracking it, and they threatened to shoot it down if it was accompanied by a fighter jet. How is she even supposed to get into Taiwan in the first place?
Well, this is no doubt one of the most dangerous situations. I don't think that they're going to shoot down her plane. That would be a major escalation. They do not want a war with the United States, but they may harass the plane. They may buzz it. We saw them just 2 months ago in June release a chaff out of a interceptor fighter right in front of an Australian reconnaissance plane, and that chaff went into the jet engine, potentially endangering the safety of that airplane. They could do something like that, and that makes it very, very dangerous. She could, of course, take a commercial flight, maybe under an alias, and get into Taiwan that way, but she probably is going to take Mil-Air.
It sounds like Chinese state media has softened its tone a little bit. Let's take a look at what they had to say today, offering a bit of an ominous warning to Pelosi, tweeting this, quote, "Let her go to Taiwan, but pray before departure. Wish herself a safe journey and wish herself not be defined by history as a sinner who starts a large-scale war in the Taiwan Strait." Is the White House washing its hands of this? Is this a not my elephant, not my circus situation? Or are they trying to create some distance between Pelosi's visit and the White House?
Well, they clearly are not happy with this. They don't want this visit to happen, but they're also aware that they can't control her. She is, Speaker of the House, different branch of government. So she's free to go where she wants. I'm sure they've told her that this is probably not the best time to provoke China. Xi Jinping has elections among the party elites coming up in November, where he's going for an unprecedented 3rd term. He needs everything to go well, and he's chosen to escalate things very high rhetorically, warning Biden that he's playing with fire here. So I worry, is Xi Jinping going to blink here? Can he afford to blink a few months before his critical election?
Dmitri, we'll talk about whether or not this is bark or bite in just a second, but I do want to know just how much this has brought the country together. Here in the U.S., for whatever reason, Republicans supporting Pelosi on this, among them, even former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of Defense Mark Esper. It seems like if one thing brings Americans together, it's policy on China in this instance. What do you expect their next move to be? It seems like they really need Pelosi to go. Republicans and Democrats need her to follow through on this trip.
I think at this point, it's hard for her not to go. If she backs down, America will be seen as weak in the region. China will be pressing ahead even further with trying to escalate tensions. So she has to go. The question is, how does she do that in a way that does not provoke further tensions? And that's really going to be a very tough thing to figure out.
So when any state media is threatening large-scale international war, that's not something to take lightly. I want to listen one more time to Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, who had this to say about whether or not this sort of visit was okay.
Previous speakers visited Taiwan. Many members of Congress go to Taiwan, including this year. And so if the Speaker does decide to visit and China tries to create some kind of crisis or otherwise escalate tensions, that would be entirely on Beijing.
Anthony Blinken passing the buck there. Dmitri, what do you think China will do?
They can do a variety of things. As I mentioned, they can not necessarily shoot down the flight, but make it a very dangerous journey. But more likely than not, they will likely escalate against Taiwan. They could escalate the fly-fire exercises they already started conducting in the Straits. They could potentially start boarding some ships that are heading towards Taiwan. They could even enter their airspace, something that they have not yet done in previous times. They've entered their air defense zone, which is not their actual airspace. They could push things further, and that will make it very dangerous because all will depend on how will Taiwan respond, how will the United States respond. And this is the one crisis that the Biden administration does not need right now.
All right, let's change gears a little bit to another perceived adversary abroad. Vladimir Putin now saying the United States is its greatest threat, vowing to expand the country's naval capabilities. What brings this on now? Why in this moment, Dmitri?
Well, he's trying to recast this war, the war that he's losing in Ukraine, as a war against the West. He does not want to look weak, looking like he lost the war against the poor Ukraine, someone that's not even a superpower. So he needs to recast it as a war against the United States, a war against NATO. So the United States in that scenario is clearly the enemy. And that's how he wants to gear up the population to try to get the support that he needs to really put the economy on the war footing. That's the only way that he can continue prosecuting this war.
All right, Dmitri Alperovitch, founder of the Silverado Policy Accelerator. Thank you for stopping by the program this evening.